This is primary information systems. We talked all about the data, routine maintenance, predictive maintenance, reliability-based maintenance. All this information has to be gathered, and it all has to be stored somehow. So what we're going to cover is primarily information systems within facilities management, operations, and maintenance primarily. So some of the systems functions, what do you use it for? Operations reports, multitude of reports, crystal reports. So you can generate any type of reports as long as you've got the data, okay, from within your database, okay, information. And of course, we'll touch briefly on maintenance management manuals. And primarily the manuals, we talked about procedures and policies. The manual is exactly that. It's how are you going to perform the maintenance and how are you going to execute the maintenance. How do you schedule? How do you plan? Okay, so part of your maintenance, really what it is survival. Because that's going to drive consistency from within the organization. Again, designing maintenance management information systems, different items, depending on the size of the facility. If it's small, you're going to design and install a database, right, that supports that particular facility. Now, the database could be no more than an Excel spreadsheet. So if it's a small church, say for instance, with a few pieces of equipment, you're just going to keep track. Your car maintenance, how many keep track of your car maintenance? Right? So how do you keep track of your car maintenance? There you go, right? And you change the tire, or change the battery, windshield wipers, right, and all that. And what do you do that for? You're bored. You got nothing else to do, right? Okay. Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I replaced the battery less than 6 months ago. What's up with the batteries, right? Sears, come on, give me a decent battery. But you're going to record all that information for that purpose. So you now have what? An entire history of when you did it, when it happened. And then you notice patterns and trends. The batteries usually in Arizona, when did the batteries usually go out in Arizona? Middle of summer, right? Typically in the middle of July at the ball game, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And the battery's dead. Never fails, right? Do you carry an extra battery in the trunk? You're lying, right? Do not. Maybe the little quick jumper thing, right? But again, good call. I mean, you keep the maintenance records. How about on yourselves? How many keep maintenance records on yourselves? There you go. Well, I think you have to, right? It's already done for you. It's part of this, it's part of the sign up. But so part of that would be, your cholesterol levels. Keeping records on that, right? And of course, the more that we mature, the more that those are important, right? Blood pressure, okay? Some other items is your PSA. I mean, obviously we got a running machine here, and we want to keep that running as long as and optimally as possible. So again, it's all about records. It's all about data, okay? In regards to that, okay? So common and specialized information needs, facilities. You can detail it by equipment types, maintenance. You can detail it by the calendars. Maybe it's done. Back east right now with the blizzards and snow removal. I never had to contend that in my life until I had to go back to Boston in the middle of January. And they got these big old huge snow drifts that they pile up with front end loaders. And I go, what do you do with the snow? It's like, well, Patrick, we don't cart it off, so it melts. I mean, they have a section of the parking lot just for snow. So when it all eventually evaporates, like around June, what you see at the bottom is concrete bumpers, parking lot signs, right? Light poles, little boulders, everything that they dug up with the front end loaders, they're all there. So then you pick through it and you set these over here, and you put them all back together. And then you start the process all over again. For me, I couldn't see wasting that kind of money in snow removal, but it's required. They have, 1,000 employees with cars. They need to clear the parking lot so they can get in there and park and work. Okay? I just don't know what you would do when it starts snowing hard, like at 10 o'clock in the morning. Do you send them home by noon? Do you shovel cars out? It's like, and then the roof loading is another factor.
I'm sure there's
okay? Yeah, I mean, so then you look at those particular items, right? And then parts and inventory. Categorize parts. We talked about batteries and replacements. Inventory, and you run trends. What's the parts that are replaced on a regular basis? I want to run a report on those. Is it light bulbs? Is it chair arms? Carpeting? So all that, as long as the data is inputted, you can break it out any way you want, and that's going to help your maintenance plan. Okay. Software requirements, again, must be hands-on and able to generate reports. So these are some of the criteria for different types of databases. It's got to be able to access the data. as user-friendly as possible. Well, you don't have to be a PhD to extract that information. Being able to run trend reports, okay, being able to assess the data, okay, determine on what's the requirements and priorities. Skills and work codes. Work codes, obviously, I have to know if it was a plumbing-related call or maintenance. It's going to be electrical. So I've got to be able to categorize them. So then what do? I'll run my labor reports. Okay, how many times do I have unexpected breakdown on my electrical components versus plumbing components? Or HVAC systems? Or building infrastructure like roofing? Okay, so I'm going to determine those and who responded to those. So, John, in some of these cases, you can start to build best value on the components that you install by just running the trends in the amount of failures on those particular components. If it's a Sylvania or Philips light bulbs, which ones tend to track longer, burn longer? Okay, so, Goodyear belts versus gate belts, you can run trend reports on those. So then you can establish what's going to be the best value, the best type of equipment. So again, remember I was talking about forensic maintenance? This is it. And if you really like digging things, it's like Indiana Jones, like digging into things and so on, this is it. I mean, you can spend hours and days analyzing all this cool stuff. When I was the operations and maintenance manager, I literally had stacks of reports throughout my office. And I used to ask the weirdest questions to the mechanics, like, Patrick, what are you even worrying about this? Well, I want to know if it's a Dayton fan, okay, fan motor, okay, versus maybe a Milwaukee. Which one lasts longer? It's like, Patrick, who cares? Well, I care because I got to pay for the motors. So if I'm going to get a 2-for-1, I get one motor and lasts 10 years versus one motor that's $10 cheaper, only lasts for 2 years. I'm going to go for the 10-year motor, pay the extra $10, right? Value. So I had all kinds of cool reports, right? Now, the momentum is making sure that those reports continue to go on. So I'm still in a struggle. It's a power struggle. You got to keep generating those reports, folks, and keep reviewing those, okay? Again, some of the planning and scheduling, maintenance cycles we talked about being able to get in. Restricted downtime. You only have a small window to get in and actually perform the maintenance. So you got to make sure that everything's ready to go. Your tools, your equipment, manpower, resources, because all you have is 1 hour window. So you got to be able to go in there, perform the maintenance, and get right back out. Has anybody ever had your car in for service, say at Firestone or Goodyear? They tell you what? You drop your car off in the morning, it'll be done by 11. Right, so you come back at 11 and says, oh, we just need a couple more minutes. So you're waiting in the waiting room, and then pretty soon it's 4 o'clock. They're closing out. They say, was my car done? Oh, I'm sorry, you got to come back tomorrow. Well, I need the car for school, I need the car for work, and so on. So, right, it's a disappointment. So I can't afford that downtime. Right, because now what? I got to get a rental car, I got to call a friend, right? Got to get a cab, whatever the case may be. So the downtime in regards to maintenance is going to be critical. You got to have that particular window so you can get them back into operation. Okay. You can measure the corrective versus planned maintenance, and there's actually a ratio that we're going to cover. What's going to be considered acceptable corrective maintenance versus planned maintenance. Okay. House or service calls. Okay. How many? What level? Power, plumbing, or HVAC? Which one do you think I get the most calls at my site, General Dynamics? HVAC. I get more hot and cold calls than anything else, hands down. Very little lighting calls. A trip breaker, very seldom. And if it is a trip breaker, you do the diagnostic, what caused it to trip. So you do a complete, you put granite on that particular unit and you record the load and determine, pinpoint, what was the root cause. Plumbing is either or, right? Okay. So absolutely, HVAC calls would be the biggest, okay? Parts inventory versus parts management. I don't want to stock too many filters, just enough belts. Because inventory is what? Cost. So the more inventory I have, I also have another, which is age. The longer I keep a belt in stock, the more it ages. So I used to have an HVAC mechanic who used to save, I had a 5-belt air handling unit, had 5 belts on it, right? And it maybe had a 60 horsepower motor. We changed the belts, he'd keep the best belt on his cart. And he'd drag this belt around for years. I said, I'm saving money because this is my spare belt. So I lose one belt, he takes his belt off his car, puts it on, the belt lasts for maybe 3 turns and it shreds. So guess what? He's back there again, replacing it with a new, but he just charged me 2 hours of labor and an hour of downtime for the air handler. So it's like, no, so you want to make sure that you check your inventory and you manage your inventory versus your management. So you want to make sure that you have just enough materials in there that you don't have any age issues with that. Now, some of the hard components like electrical breakers and so on and so forth, unless you go out of code or something, you can leave those indefinite. But some of the items that are perishable, any type of rubber, any type of materials that are going to be exposed to the elements and so on, you want to make sure that you put those in a management program. So you turn those. Motors, stored motors, believe it or not, a row of stored motors, you're going to have a PM where you turn the shaft so you don't have flat spots after a while. Okay? Biggest item, biggest wear and tear is idle, having that piece of equipment idle. So a lot of the Barrett-Jackson's going on right now, right, the car auction. All those antique cars, don't want to drive it, right? Biggest item that you're hurting the vehicle by not driving it. Okay? Let's see here. Okay. Again, operating reports, data collection. On this particular one here is maintenance quality. Okay, once you've performed the maintenance, having a QA program. Okay, such as the old motor. Well, we replaced the motor and we just set it here in the penthouse. We set it with the other motors that we were replacing for the last 3 years. So pretty soon you use this whole montage of motors. So part of that is maintenance quality, is how well do you keep the housekeeping from within that. Electrical bulbs that have extra conduit. Or when I tour the casinos in Las Vegas, they use their mechanical rooms as their storage rooms. So you walk through and there's stools and rolls of carpeting and everything else. It's like, no, they shouldn't be in here. There should be a mechanical room to get all that stuff out. Electrical bulbs. Same thing per code, they should not have that in there. So, again, they're looking at, potential violation from the city inspector if they were to walk through there. Okay. Logistics and personnel training. In certain areas, you may have an equipment store or inventory store next to what I consider your high usage. So I may have a couple cabinet store. Okay, a phenomena we had when we first introduced our CMMS, a lot of mechanics in our facility had their own personal stores. So they each had their own cabinet full of material. This is mine. Nobody takes it because I have my own padlock on there. But I had all these cabinets throughout the facility. I must have had $1 million worth of stores. But again, nobody knew what anybody was ordering before we actually digitized it. So everybody will order the same item 100 times. So it's like, no, let's stop this. Let's put in an equipment maintenance management system, in place. Okay, and then of course vendor management. Just in time would be considered part of that for vendor management. And of course, some vendors, they want to sell you as many parts as they possibly can. I don't need extra flashlight batteries. I got enough as it is now. So hold up on that order. Okay. Another item, everybody's familiar with Grainger's. Multi-billion-dollar company, right? You'll be surprised what my folks order through Grainger's. I run the report every 6 months. It always amazes me. So how many radios did you need? 6 radios, one for every month. A different color for every month of the year, right? Flashlights, those meg lights, what are they running? $60, $80 a flashlight? It's like, how many of these did you buy? I mean, everybody's got to have one, right? Okay. Work gloves, work boots, you name it. Okay. Another component to the maintenance management manual is the corrective actions. How did you respond to them and how did you support them? Okay. What you want to do, again, minimize the unplanned downtime. Okay. Assessing the feedback, primarily from the customers. Did we actually do what we were supposed to do? Did we do what we said and say what we do? So that's part of an auditing procedure. And then systems reviews and audits on a regular basis. Okay. That would be another item that would be included in your maintenance management manual. So again, your maintenance management, what it is, it's the Bible. Okay. Here's a couple examples of different types of screenshots. Okay. On this particular one, you got the description. It's a ceiling tile. How many each? Okay. Type, it's expendable. So once I use it, I don't get the old one back. I'm going to let the old one go, especially if it has a water stain on it. But what I'm doing is this is keeping track of my inventory. As I purge one, it tracks automatically on how many inventory. In some cases, I want to pre-order or automatically order, stock, inventory stock that comes back in. Okay. Here's another application, different type of screenshots. Okay. On the one to the left, This would be maybe a type of a building system. Okay, so in this particular one, it's a lease building. Okay, and on this particular building, maybe it's offices and how many times we clean them and the different types of cleaning. The screenshot to the right is elevators, so you can track the number of elevator breakdowns, maintenance requirements for elevators. Elevators have a different code and different requirements for maintenance on elevators, typically outsourced. So again, just some different types of screenshots. Here's a few more. Okay, typically with a computerized maintenance management system. So again, these are populated by who? These are populated by the crafts folks, the individuals that are actually out. So comments, types of tools that you use. If you have ever worked on a car, you note down there what socket that you use maybe to replace the brake rotors or remove it. So you make a little mental note, so I don't have to dig through the toolbox every time I use it. Okay, and remember to put that socket back so I can use it the next time. Right? Okay. So implementing a CMS, again, just typically, it's a process, it's a project. Okay. So some strategies for implementing a computerized management system, user-friendly, right? Typically, you're going to look at the financial results for the company. Okay, are they solvent? Okay. Another one would be benchmark. Go out and tour other facilities that have that software. Okay. Another rule of thumb is maybe download maybe 100 pieces of your equipment off your current system, hand it to whoever your shortlist is, have them introduce it into their systems. So I want you to come back in a month and show me my equipment on your system and how well I can slice and dice that information if we want to weed them out. Another item, the 1-800 number, call it. And see who you get on the other side of the line. It says, you know, we have 724 technical assistants. Oh, great. Give me the number, and I'm going to call right now. It's like, well, for one, I couldn't even get in. I was placed on hold. I got to press all the little numbers. No, that's not going to work. I want a human voice on the other side. Okay. So again, some parameters, some typical. Okay. And again, part of the FM technology, you're tying all this together. So you're tying in your energy management systems, your inventory control. You're tying in possibly some of your design parameters, such as CAD. So you can utilize CAD in some of your design, some of your maintenance requirements. Okay. Geological or global information systems, especially if you lease buildings. So again, a lot of these solutions, software, you can really put into a big enterprise system. Okay, where you have a multiplied like Aperture, or IBM has. Oh gosh, you got Aperture, and there's another large, Archibus would be another one that would be a large enterprise system. A lot of horsepower in it. So unless you have a large corporation, but only input the technology that you need. So if you're only looking for maintenance, just look for a maintenance program. I don't need leasing information, and I don't need a CAD system with it. I just want maintenance. So always only install what you need. Okay. So again, it's the different types of functions. So any type of robust enterprise system, I can track security, I can track assets, leases, I can track security. I can track just about anything in my facility, but depending if I'm actually going to use the systems, for me it was primarily maintenance, and that's really what I used. Okay. Optimization, implementation, part of your CMMS system. Again, stakeholder requirements, why do you want to do it? I want to track information, I want to optimize my equipment usage. So part of the strategy components would be, is the strategic technology plan. Is it compatible with my IT group? Can they support it? Can they support the software that I want to introduce? Okay, and what server? Process analysis, what's my current process versus what I want to adapt and what I want to improve? Maybe I got the whole handwritten cards and I want to convert that into digitizing. So training is going to be required, part of that. Evaluation, selection of your vendors, shortlist it. Implementation, do you throw your old system away and you start the new one, or do you run them side by side? Yeah, you want to run them side by side. Run them for a month or 2 months. In case the new one crashes, now what do? You lost all that data. Okay, so again, it's just regular, it's like, changing your laptop information. I want to throw all the old stuff before I know that the new stuff has been loaded. Okay, typical items. Again, you place it into operations, you management through your metrics. Okay, you also future upgrades. Again, you always wait on the upgrades. You don't start as soon as it's out. You wait. Typically, you wait 12 months. You let everybody else work the bugs out of that. Because typically, when you have a bridge and you upgrade, there's going to be issues with that. So the rule of thumb: wait a year and then implement the upgrade. Because by that time, 50 people ahead of you have already debugged it. I don't want to be the one having to debug that system. So of course at the very top, you start the process all over again. And that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years, or that could be 20 years, depending on your circumstances and applications. Okay. Again, developing on the bigger picture side, gather the team, define the goals and responsibilities. Okay. Buy-in from top management is going to be critical, and funding is going to be another one. Management and funding. If you don't have those two, the opportunities of actually implementing a computerized maintenance management systems are going to be very slim. If I don't have money to maintain it and provide the upgrades and the technical support, I can't sustain it. Okay, so that's going to be critically as important as having upper management, okay, buy-in in regards to that. Okay. So part of the implementation plan should include training personnel, as we mentioned before, but the most important one up here is going to be the quality assurance program. Remember, trash in is trash out, garbage in, garbage out. So my QA system, my QA process has to be top-notch. Consistent, information has to go in the same way every time, and it has to be inputted with the same amount of quality. So tools, if I'm going out working on a piece of equipment, comment sections, take up a 1/2-inch box wrench and a ping hammer. Include all that information for the next person that has that particular maintenance or that PM to have all that info. Oh, look at that, we've got to take a box wrench and a ping hammer. Okay. Same thing with items that they note, 2 bolts are missing, you're going to have to replace those. Okay, so again, comment sections are all part of the QA system. Okay, implementation. And again, most important one here, do not implement technology for the sake of technology. If it's not required, it's not going to support your needs, there's no need to implement it. Only implement technology if you plan a use for it. A lot of organizations bring in large, top-notch enterprise infrastructures in regards to technology and maintenance systems. They never use half of them. Okay? Again, it's just a waste of money. And what do? Is really what you sent the wrong signal to the organization. Okay? So some items to look for in technology is it scalable? Most units have modules. You can stack the modules. Maybe you only use 3 modules, say, for the first 6 years of its existence. You have 5 more. Maybe by year 5, I'm going to introduce 2 new modules, maybe inventory and maybe planning and scheduling. But the other 3 remaining modules, I may never touch them. I don't have a need to at this point. Okay. Maybe if I have a change in my process or my operation, maybe then at that point. Okay. And then integration of the FM processes. Emergency planning in your facility, part of your database. Have all your components that are considered critical infrastructure, pieces of equipment, electrical gear. If that goes out, it impacts 50% of your facility. So part of that's going to be part of your crisis management plan, and what's going to be your redundant backup system. So you can put all that within your infrastructure for your computerized maintenance system in your database. So on that module, you may have business continuity and disaster recovery. List all the components on there, what's going to be considered critical. So any PM or any downtime, automatically it flags it for you. This is considered a critical piece of equipment that has to be pre-scheduled with the customer, okay, before it actually happens. Okay. And again, the final implementation is going to include development of some sort of procedures manual. You've got to write it down so you don't forget it. Again, consistency is going to be key. And then the quality assurance program, and then some sort of continual training program. Typically, you get your power users, computer power users, use them to train the other folks within your organization. Okay, that's going to be helpful.